Remember the first time we saw Brock Purdy against Miami? And I'll never forget that caller called. Literally, the first segment said, this guy reminds me of Joe Montana, and I ran him off the air. I said, come on, man, let's not do this after one game. But after a full season, after what I'm seeing yesterday, I said to myself, I'm watching the statue guy. This just feels different with this quarterback.
You know what Rocco keeps texting me over the last 2 months? He's the next Steph in terms of the way everyone adores him and the way everyone sleeps on him nationally and how we internally here in the Bay Area view him as he's a superstar.
He is. It's hard to disagree with
Why are we afraid to say that?
No, it is. There's no more. I don't think anybody's going to laugh at us when we say he looks like a young Brady.
If he was drafted third, like Trey Lance was overall, would we have any issue saying he's a superstar?
But that's what makes the story better.
I know.
Is that he wasn't.
But he is a superstar.
Is that he was found in the 7th round, literally with the last pick. I never want that to go away. I know, like, I'm over the draft positioning.
When
the guy's
did it
just a
go
baller.
over? When did we stop talking about being a 6th-round pick with Brady? 3 Super Bowls?
3 Super Bowls in.
I mean,
and even then, you go back and you say Brady was a 6th-round pick.
But it's like a footnote. Like, now you looking back on his career,
it is a footnote. But
it's not the lead dog.
But I never want that to go away.
No, I hear you.
I never want those footnotes to go away. It's like, yeah, Brady was a 6th-round pick. And that's why we compare a young Brock to a young Brady, because the similarities in draft positioning. Brady was a 6th-round pick and afterthought.
But the thing I think of when you talk about Montana was known for balancing the football out to all the playmakers and getting it to the right guy, playing point guard and distributing the ball. He was always scrappier than he looked. He was always tougher than he looked, quicker than he looked, better pocket presence than he gave credit for. His arm was always better than people gave it credit for. His touch was as good as anyone ever, and his ball placement accuracy was next level. Those are all the things that Brock Purdy does.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talk about Brock, right?
Real quick on McAfee, because I know you brought him up about how great he's been and what's the greatest running season of all time. In 13 games, he's got the 10th most yards ever for a running back in 49er single-season history.
That's incredible.
Right now, he's number 10 in terms of all-time numbers. And one good game, and he's going to be in the top 5.
Wow.
You're looking at basically Wendell Tyler, Charlie Garner, Frank Gore, Garrison Hurst, and Delvin Williams from Kansas. All are in that 1,200-yard range. He's at 1,177. So if he has one of his normal games, which is about 90 yards a game, if he has one normal rushing game, he will be the 4th best 49er rushing season of all time.
What's the number one? Is it
a team with 3,000 yards?
Is it Frank Gore's 1695?
Frank Gore, 1695. Number 2 is Garrison Hurst in 98. That 98 offense
season
that we referenced, 1,500 yards.
Wow.
And then Roger Craig, 1988, 1,500 yards.
I want McAfee to get that 1,500.
I do too, but if he doesn't, it'll be because they don't need him to.
Right. No, so look at this. Most games with the rushing touchdown and receiving touchdown in the same game in franchise history. Well, Christian McCaffrey's tied with Roger Craig for 5 of those games. He's tied with Roger Craig and Jerry Rice for 5 of those games.
Insane.
But up in the rear, 2 games behind him, Deebo Samuel. He's had 3 games in which he's had a rushing and receiving touchdown in the same game. Christian McCaffrey, most games with 100 or more rushing yards. Active running backs, well, Christian McCaffrey has 20 of those games. Derrick Henry's number 1 with 37. Nobody's going to catch him. Nick Chubb, 30. Zeke with 30. Dalvin Cook with 21. And Christian McCaffrey now with 20. And really, he could have a lot more 100-yard games if they gave him the ball more. Like, think about those guys. Those guys are getting 25 carries a game with those teams early on in their careers. Chris McCaffrey gets 15 and he has 95 yards.
It's just, they're so explosive and efficient. It's unbelievable.
So how about
I'm surprised, like, honest to God, I'm legitimately surprised that guys aren't frustrated they aren't getting the ball. Like, I know that they've won so many games and winning teams sit down. Because they balance it out. Everyone gets their shots.
You know why? Why this has become one of the more fun teams and more lovable teams in Niner history.
Nobody cares about that.
Nobody cares about that. There's one goal. It's to hoist the Lombardi.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, as they get there, as they go through this journey, they're having fun watching everybody else eat. Think about Ayuk celebrating in the end zone when Deebo scores a touchdown in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Christian McCaffrey has a 72-yard run to start the game, and he's pointing at Brandon Ayuk saying, hey, that's the way you block. That's the way you block.
His blocking,
you know what I mean?
Downfield is unbelievable.
Deebo Samuel giving the ball to a lineman. Yeah. Hey, you spike this football. Yeah. They're having fun as a team. Yeah. And that's what's special. How about this? Deebo Samuel, most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver since 1960. Since 1960. Most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver. Number 3, Eric Metcalf. He had 12 games.
How are we going to describe him?
Hold on. Look at this list. Eric Metcalf, 12 touchdowns, number 3 all time. Or number 3 since 1960. Most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver. Bobby Mitchell, number 2.
Wow.
All right. Bobby Mitchell, number 2 with 18 touchdowns. Deebo Samuel, number 1 since 1960 with the most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver. Most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver since 1960. It's Deebo Samuel, 19.
We throw
That's
the word
incredible.
Football player around a lot. Is there any other guy that it more embodies than Deebo Samuel? Like, I think when we talk,
football player.
10 years from now, we talk about who he is. Like, I'm not going to say wide receiver Deebo Samuel.
You say playmaker.
That's what I'm saying.
The guy was a playmaker, game changer.
And how many coaches could maximize Deebo?
Not many.
Maybe Andy Reid and McAfee.
And think about this. Shanahan, Lynch, Adam Peters went out and drafted this guy, molded him into the perfect player for their system.
Yeah.
Maybe it looks different in another system, but he's perfect for their. I always compare Deebo and Draymond Green together because I believe they're both enforcer types. But Deebo does play offense, but the tone he likes to set physically, it resonates throughout that sideline.
Yeah.
It resonates throughout the game. It resonates with his fan base. He's just a tone setter. So 10 years from now, when we say Deebo Samuel, and he's getting honored by the 49ers, we're talking about a ring of honor type of dude with the way he's stacking seasons like this.
19's never going to be worn by anyone else. I was explaining to the boys when I took them to the game, with the numbers up on top of the press box, like what they signify. And they're like, well, how many guys do you think on this team are going to be up there?
Wow.
And I was like, well, I think 71.
Yeah.
I think 23.
What about 85?
I think 85, but also Vernon deserves his credit too. Like, I think
doubt.
85 should be a duality number, right? Like, just my opinion. I think 19. I think 97, which is already up there for Bryant Young.
Right.
But I think Bosa, and I think 54.
Wow.
I mean, that's like, think about that.
I know. So speaking of Kittle,
think about that. They've built a juggernaut.
They have.
John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan built this from scratch. And I think that's the part, as they've added Trent and added CMC, building it from scratch. I just think it hits more. It hits harder for Niner fans.
How about this? All time. Fewest amount of games by an NFL tight end to reach 6,000 career receiving yards since 1970.
Give it to me.
George Kittle has the 4th fewest games to reach that mark, 95.
On a run-first team. Where he's known as a run blocker.
Yep.
Before a pass catcher.
Kellen Winslow, 94 games.
Wow.
It took him. Travis Kelce took him 91 games. Took Gronk 86 games.
Gronk.
So George Kittle's on this short list. I mean, they're just rewriting the record books. Let's go to the lines. OG in San Jose. OG, what's happening?
Unbelievable.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is super exciting. I just wanted to add that I totally agree. Brock Purdy is really the next generation of babyface assassins for the 49ers. I mean, we have had a Super Bowl drought now for about 30 years. And I feel like he's here to break that curse for us. Just like Buster Posey did for the Giants, Steph Curry did for the Warriors. I think Brock is going to do it for us. I just get an amazing feeling from him. The throw he made to Deebo was immaculate. And it was just super Montana-esque. He hit him in stride. They burned Jamal Adams. It was just absolutely fantastic to watch. You know, this team gives me 1989 vibes.
Oh,
more than 94.
Why is that?
Very, very similar. You know, they're stacked on defense and on offense. When they went up against Denver in '89, Denver had the number 1 defense in the league, and they put up 55 points against them. This mentality, as well as the way Purdy's playing, he just reminds me of Montana. He might be the second coming.
Right.
I don't see much difference in terms of how Montana played that season and how Purdy's playing now. You just look at the tape.
Go ahead, finish up, OG.
No, I was just gonna say that we just got to stay healthy and get that number 1 seed and make it through the bye, and then we'll see what happens.
It does feel like they're on a mission. Like, it feels like they're on a redemption tour. When they won in '88, the Niners, they all talked about how they had to validate it by winning again.
But they wanted to win without Bill Walsh. That built-in motivation, not having Bill Walsh, because at a time they thought Bill Walsh held the offense back a little bit, and that next year, Mike Holmgren was like, "Yo, we're going deeper. Yes. We're gonna stretch the game vertically."
It was a coronation also of Montana and Rice and everything that they had, and they were gonna get a three-peat. I know no one wants to.
So you bring up three-peat, and this is where I'm at now. If they can just get this one,
they gotta get one.
Because as I'm watching the game, and I knew you looked at me crazy. I thought I was watching a statue guy in Brock Purdy yesterday. When I mean a statue guy, I mean a guy one day we're going to be rubbing his statue saying, once upon a time, Brock Purdy played quarterback here, and he turned out to be one of the greatest quarterbacks in 49ers history. He's putting on the best season as a 49er quarterback since at least 1994, and he may be playing better than Steve Young did in that 94 season.
He's a Pro Bowler.
Like, he's at least a Pro
legitimate Pro Bowler, not this, like, fake, like, two guys bowed out and you became. He's a Pro Bowler.
Forget Pro Bowler. This guy's playing like a first-team All-Pro.
Agreed.
First-team All-Pro quarterback.
Agreed.
And I'm thinking to myself, boy, if you could just get the one. If you get the one with these playmakers all coming back, because they're all locked up. We're going to lock up Brandon Ayuk. Debo's locked up. Kittle's locked up. Trent will probably come back for another year. You're going to be in a position to go back-to-back.
With the cap expanding.
So this could be the beginnings, the rumblings, as the great Tim Roy said back in 2014-15. Hey, Bonte, I think we're upon the golden era of Warriors basketball. And 4 championships later, you're like, boy, Tim was right. Well, this could be it for the 49ers if we could just get that one. And you got the quarterback in place. You got the receivers in place. You got the running back in place. You got a young offensive line. Aaron Banks is going to get better and better.
Yes.
Brindle's playing better and better.
Yeah.
Burford's had a solid season. McKivitz, we don't talk about him enough.
He's actually been good this year.
We don't talk about the line no more.
I know.
And Trent, if he wins one, he's going to come back and ride it out for these guys for another year.
Everybody's locked up on team-friendly deals. The only one is Ayuk and Chase.
Yeah, and
they'll figure it out. I know. I totally.
So this could be the beginning of a dynastic run, but you got to get the one.
Absolutely, you got to get the one. It's pretty special what we're watching right now.
Right.
And it does feel like they found the flaw in the algorithm of the salary cap. Like when Steph signed that suppression deal for $11 million a year because of the ankles, it enabled them to be able to afford Clay and Dre and bring in Kevin Durant as the
television cap. Yeah, the television.
It feels like the algorithm now that they've broken the computer is, Brock making $900,000.
Wow.
I heard, what was the stat? He's making $900,000. He'd have to play 800 years for Ohtani's contract to match up with Brock Purdy's.
Something like that. You get a bowl, right? And because here's why I'm thinking. This is why I'm bringing up the Super Bowl real quick, asking. Because we are watching Philadelphia last night. And boy, it feels like that window's shrinking. Boy, they look tired. And boy, by them not winning that one last year. The pressure for them this playoff run, after coming so close last season, they may never get back to that point again.
Well, think
about how tough it's been for the Niners to get back to that point.
But I think the difference between the Niners and the Eagles is the Niners are better at defensive personnel.
Yeah.
They have loaded their D-line. But outside of D-line, like they acquired a safety who at the middle way through the year, I don't think they can afford another injury in that back half, whether it's the linebackers, the safeties, cornerback play. Well, it's tapered off. The Niners have weathered the storm of losing Hufanga and have been pretty good. Now, at some point, it might expose them. But you look at their linebacker depth, you look at their safety depth, you look at their cornerback depth, all of their young players. Diablo Lenore is still on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
Aubrey Thomas is still on a rookie deal. Travarius Ward is locked up. I don't know, man.
Gibson's on a cheap deal, and Gibson's been really good for this team over the last 2 seasons.
We hype up Howie Roseman. He's done a great job. A great job. John Lynch has been better.
And Adam Peters?
Been better.
At least this year, they've been better.
They've loaded
They've been better.
Team.
They've been better this year.
Guess what the best part about this year is? You get your first-round pick back next year.
Yep, no doubt.
They've done this without a
first-round pick. So just thinking about how Philly couldn't come close to that. And we know it out here, Super Bowl 54. We haven't got back to the Super Bowl yet.
Here's the other element. And I know Sirianni has input on the offense. He wasn't calling plays. He got that taken away. Shane Steichen was a big part of the offense. If something's wrong with the Niner offense, Kyle Shanahan ain't going nowhere. We're not losing a coordinator. We lost Mike McDaniels, and the offense has never been better.
So just get this one.
And you lost your defensive coordinator twice.
Right.
Steve Wilkes has him humming.
He has them humming. They're number one defense again.
I don't know.
Number one defense again. And whether or not it was changed from the press box to the sideline, I will always think that was a little overblown because the defense was still humming. They're still playing better. They're playing as well, I think. Even before they were 5-0, they were humming.
Do you know how many
defense was humming?
You know how many NFC West title? And I know we don't hang those banners, but the Niners have 21. They're about to get their 22nd NFC West.
No doubt.
22. And they've all come basically in the last 40 years. It's kind of crazy.
It is kind of wild. But Philadelphia not taking advantage of that. And now look at them. They are reeling. So if you could get this, with everything set in place with Brock, because I know everybody's talking about, boy, when Brock Purdy has to get paid, look out, Dick Van keeps coming out saying, hey, that's a real thing. But you got 2 years for that. In the meantime, you still have Debo playing at his prime. You still have Ayuk entering his prime. You have George Kittle in his prime. You have McAfee in his prime. The window is now to take advantage of because you may never have an explosive offense like this ever again. This offense is that good. I'm telling you, man. I'm actually disappointed they only scored 28 yesterday. Well, that's how good they are.
They should have scored 35 or more. I mean, that's what I personally believed, but that's okay. They can win a game ugly. And then fourth quarter execution and closing the game out, what they've done this year is drop that last hammer on you. And they didn't do that yesterday, but they got some great interceptions.
They do. Fred Warner, by the way, before we go out to the line.
And a great stop.
Fred Warner, listen to this one. So he had his fourth interception yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just a litany of records getting broken here by this team. Fred Warner registered 8 tackles and 1 interception yesterday. All right. It was the 4th interception this season, 8th of his career. His 4 interceptions this season are tied for most by non-DB in franchise history.
Wow.
Tied Jen Farmhorse, tied Keita Turner, tied Frank Dudley, and 7 other players have 3. But Fred Warner's at the top of that list. It also marked the 6th straight season in which he's amassed 100 or more tackles. So he had 107 tackles on the season now.
So
6 straight years over 100 tackles.
No other non-DB has had this many. Keith Farnhorst, wow, that's
Jim Farnhorst, Keena Turner, and Frank Dudley. He's tied with them now for 4 interceptions.
Keena is an all-time legend that no one talks about.
Non-quarterback interceptions. Non-DB interceptions. It's got 4. It's got 4. Let's go out to the lines.
I would have thought Julian Peterson would have done that.
Yeah, I would have thought that too.
Wow. And Willis never did that. That's
Fred Warner. Fred Warner, man. Unbelievable.
He could have had another one.